the climate change is already in front of us. In the Himalayas, the glaciers are receding. In the Western Ghats, the way the forests are, they are changing drastically. The biodiversity of the Western Ghats, or the tropical forest we call, is giving way to very minimum species, from diverse species to few species. And that change is going to have a very dramatic impact on not only climate, but also the available water resources. That is why the need of the hour is, how do we tackle climate change? On one level, the policy changes, either central or state government, how we can deal with the climate change. But as part of the environment movement, the Chipko and Appiko has a very practical philosophy of how we can deal with the climate change. In Kannada, we say ulisu, belesu, mitavagi balasu, which in translation means you save whatever is left of the natural forests to save the natural resources. The second is to grow trees or to get back the nature. And the third is rational use. I think these three main objectives of Chipko and Appiko embodies how we go ahead as an individual, as a community, and as a nation to address the issue of climate change and deterioration of ecology and environment. Coming to the first objective, to save whatever is there. This is very, very, very crucial. Why? We as human beings will never be able to create natural forests. You know that we can plant and create plantations. Basically, when we plant trees, we are artificially creating a greenery which cannot really compensate with the natural forest. And what is the state of natural forests? At the country level, they say that it should be 33% of the geographical area should be covered by the green cover. But today, if you look at the green cover, though officially they say 18%, which includes monoculture plantations, the real natural forest, which is nature's gift, is hardly even 2% in India. You can find this only in kind of national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, or in the steep slopes, or in the mountain ranges like Western Ghats. In fact, when Dr. Madhav Gadgil studied entire Western Ghats, he found that in the hilly area where the forest should be 66%, in Western Ghats, it was not even 10%. Similarly, in Himalayas, the percentage of natural forest is very, very less. And these natural forests are not only the carbon sinks, but it builds the resilience to the climate change. whatever the disaster will happen due to climate change, these natural ecosystems, either forest, wetlands, grasslands, have the capacity to build the resilience and reduce the impact. Unfortunately, the big infrastructure projects or the mining projects or trying to build more dams for power generation, these are all planned in those areas where this 2% of the remaining natural forest exists. It's very simply logical to see that we cannot sacrifice this 2% of the forest for the sake of so-called development, which we'll never be able to recreate. And that is the basic reason that we demand, or all of us should demand, that whatever natural forests, natural ecosystems which exist in this country should be preserved. That should be the first goal of conservation. Coming to the second part, which is to regrow or reforest. As I said earlier, we will never be able to recreate a natural forest. We'll be able to plant trees, and plantations or afforestation can be done. Unfortunately, all those compensatory afforestation projects in lieu of destruction of the natural forest, which is being created all over India, are essentially monoculture plantations, which means a single species. Earlier it was eucalyptus, now it is acacia, teak. So we are creating a monoculture plantations which will not be able to serve the ecological needs of this country. We need to create that kind of forests or do afforestation which will at least try to bring back the diversity. And then, in addition to that, allow the percolation of the rainfall water into underground and recharge our streams, our rivers. This is the only way we can provide water security for the entire country. So, the first is to preserve whatever is there. Second is to regrow or try to grow those kind of forests or plant trees which will bring back the biodiversity and assure the security of water. Now, the third objective is rational use. What do we mean by rational use? There is a lot of possibilities to help us in conserving the natural resources. For example, energy is one of the basic needs of the modern day society. We want to build more power plants, we want to build more dams, and that is going to cost nature, natural resources, either through submergence of natural forests or through the pollution emitted by the coal-powered power plants. So if we say don't aim to build more dams or more power plants, what is the alternative? Of course, the renewable energy is one way where technology comes in. But if you look at the power consumption and transmission in India, just transmission, while transmitting power from point of generation to the point of consumption, the colossal waste is more than 25 to 30%. Now, that is unbelievable. And that is where the technology comes in. If you save the power, it is as good as you generate power. It is not only transmission, but if you look at the way in every household, in every industry, how we waste power, energy is unbelievable. And I think with the advancement of technology, it is much easier to conserve energy at every level, from household to industry to larger units. And that is where we need to address, instead of generating more power, how can we utilize technology to use less power? And then when we say that, look, rational use means every part of your life is related to rational use. Now look at the plastics. Now, the microplastics are found not only in the animals, but in the bloods of the human beings. So, when we say that use less of plastics, it starts from individual. No doubt the policy changes also has to happen. But what we say, that in order to become an activist of Chipko or Appiko, you don't need to hug the trees only. You need to embrace the philosophy of this movement, where you directly ask in every day in your life these three basic questions. Am I contributing to the preservation of the natural forest? Am I trying to plant biodiversity of trees, of fruits, and other species which can help not only human beings, but the wildlife and the birds? And then, am I using the natural resources given by Mother Earth in a proper way? When I look at the urban as well as the middle class people like me and you, when we go to the toilet for the small job, we so easily flush out, press the button, and there goes 8 to 10 liters of a clean water into the drain to clean not even half a liter of your urine. This is so irrational. It is a criminal act on Mother Earth. So what I say is, each individual has to ask himself whether I am trying to live a very rational life where I don't put pressure on the natural resources. We have this concept of walking or trading very carefully, where your footprint is not large enough. Almost if there is no footprint, that is the best. And I can assure you that if you live with less energy, if you live to meet only the needs of this society and not the greed, that is the way where your ecological footprint can be reduced. If you don't want to use plastics, take a cloth bag. I know that many people will say, using one, if I use the cloth bag and everybody uses the plastic bag, how is it going to help? But dear friend, the act has to begin with the individual. And the first step you are going to make is going to lead to a very drastic impact, not only in your personal life, but when people from other areas, from within your family, friends, see that, they will one day realize that, look, the way we live, our lifestyles, if it is causing damage to nature, then our children will not have a future. And in order to provide the security to our future generations, we need to imbibe these three basic principles of preserving the natural ecosystems, of trying to recreate a greenery and biodiversity, and then to imbibe the qualities of minimal use of the natural resources, either water, paper, or your clothes, anything, in your life. If you don't start steps to initiate this and to make it part of your life, I think the future is going to be very bleak. As Gandhiji said, that this earth can meet the needs of the people, but not the greed. And today, what we see all around, not only in India, but even in the so-called developed countries like America or Europe, where one American citizen consumes 264 kgs of paper per year, leave alone the other resources like minerals and other energy, etc. Just paper. And in India, we hardly consume 3 kilos. Look at the impact it is going to have. If every citizen, Indian citizen, want to copy the lifestyle of the West, obviously we are going to need resources from several regions and earth. And that is where the Indian culture teaches us to live in harmony with nature. All the sages, they went back to the forest to get the wisdom. And nature taught them the wisdom. We say Aranya culture. A culture where you live in harmony, where every act of yours is based on the reverence to nature. And that is how the Indian culture was able to survive for 4,000 to 5,000 years. Because the lifestyle, the way our civilizations existed, was not based on exploitative relationship with nature, but it was a very harmonious relationship. And today, the government invokes the traditional Indian culture, but all its actions are contradictory. Each of the policies is aimed at destroying the natural resources. The Supreme Court of India warned in almost 20 years before of the plastic time bomb, and it is already there, but we have not taken actions. The government report says 98% of our rivers are polluted. We are least bothered. The current disasters in Himalayas, Western Ghats, clearly indicate the disastrous impact of climate change. But either the politicians, bureaucrats, or even ordinary citizens are least bothered. We are so apathetic. We are so alienated from nature. The need of the hour is to bring back our relationship with Mother Nature so that we start respecting, not only respecting, but imbibe those values of our ancient culture where we treated the rivers as God, the mountains as God, and the forests and the nature as God. And through that reverence, we preserve the ecology as well as provide a security to the humanity, not only of the present generations, for the future generations also. So let us work together to conserve this ancient civilization of ours. Thank you for giving me an opportunity.